Hey everybody, welcome back to X's for Show, your premier media response show where we are talking about how to knuckle up and spinball your way through life. That's right, we're doing a Sonic and Knuckles 101 coming to you live at X's for Show on all your social media. As for me, I'm Nico, and you can check me out at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION.
And I'm TK. You can find me at TK Elemental.
And I'm your producer, Kevo. You can find me at Kevo Really. That's KEVOREALLY. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment so we know what you want us to cover in the future.
I think it's really cool how many James Marsden projects we talk about on this show. For a guy who I like fine. I do. I really like I like James Marsden. He did a fine job with the role.
Do you think we're about to see him in July?
I wonder, but we're at least going to talk about those
probably
at some point. We are talking about Jury Duty a year ago now. This is a crazy thing how much James Marsden we talk about for a guy who I like fine, but I'm not putting him on like my favorite actors of all time list, like a Brad Garrett, like a handsome Brad Garrett.
And here's the other thing: no matter what happens, we're always quoting something from 30 Rock. So,
oh yeah, oh great, yeah, Chris.
Although not so much the Chris seasons or moments. We did a couple of us definitely did say nothing counts on a leap day.
So, I got to be honest. Maybe I am a James Marsden fan. Maybe I just didn't know it. Okay.
And that's what we've learned today. Good night, everyone.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you guys so much.
And his Reiki Master episode
solid
of
career choices.
Odd Fam. Yeah.
Yeah, always a great guest star on everything that he's on. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen him on Modern Family. Who is he?
He is a homeless gentleman that moves into Lily's Princess Castle in the backyard.
Yeah. Oh, I have seen that one. Yes. Yeah.
Don't touch me. I don't like being touched. Wait, but you do massages for a living. It's Reiki. It's different. It's about moving energy.
I had that friend.
Oh gosh, don't we all? And I think we all had that friend that was like, "You play Mario? Why do you play Mario? I play Sonic." And
you're that friend.
Was Sega big for you guys? Sega was not a big console in my area. Was like I knew a couple kids, but it was really like the 98 degrees of consoles. It was okay, I'll play that, but that's not the one that I'm like freaking out for.
I think it was seen as like the grungier one, like in this way where it was like you had maybe like a little more street cred if you could get your hands on a Genesis. And here's the thing, my parents, I don't know why, because they were fine with the Game Boy. I was a very spoiled child. My parents did not tend to say no to me about stuff. No Game Gear. Absolutely no fucking Game Gear. And I do not believe it is because they knew that those 6 batteries would go in 20 minutes and they would be buying batteries nonstop.
For the rest of your life, right?
Pay attention to that. But I just remember I really desperately needed to have Sega systems for Echo the Dolphin. I needed Echo the Dolphin very badly. I don't know why, but I felt like the rift in my life at age 6 could be repaired by Echo the Dolphin, and therefore I needed Sega products. I never got them. My first Sega product was the Dreamcast, for which I did get Echo the Dolphin. But no, it was really all Mario all the time. Or all Nintendo all the time, total brand loyalty to them. And I distinctly remember, like, everybody around me, yes, it was still Nintendo, but there was like if you were a Game Gear kid, you maybe had a dirt bike and you were probably going to get cigarettes earlier than the rest of us.
Well, and so that's even part of it. I feel like if you had a Nintendo, you might have been like me, where you had a Nintendo, or your older cousin had a Nintendo, and thus you got it once he had a job and boobs to play with, and not his boobs, other people's boobs. And the big thing that I remember Sega's Etherman was like somebody bought a system, and not like, oh, just had one from the 80s, but like they got this thing. And then it turns out that Sega was a little bit more complicated than just like your run-of-the-mill Nintendo or Super Nintendo. There was like bit versions of the Sega, and you might have had it under one name or another. And so the journey to Sega was a little bit crazy. But Sega for me was always like the fucking cool. Like, okay, ready? Nintendo is Sister Act, but Sega is Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit. That is how I felt about it growing up. One was family and like stable. The other was like cool and new.
Yeah, I see the picture that you're painting where like it's more like Nintendo is for all ages and Sega is more for like tweens that want to be edgy. That I think feeds into what TK was saying, I feel.
Yeah, I think we're just saying two different versions of it because like I was the cool ghost writer, the little magical spirit that helped people solve mysteries by spelling things. And he was Ghost Rider and was doing shots off the back of a Harley, you know? So we were just different kinds of kids, you know?
And I was scared of ghosts, so I was neither. But, you know, even without Sega, you know, Sonic is something that was so pervasive in the 90s. It's something that everyone was aware of. And so I've always thought the character was cool, but not being as big a gamer as you guys, I hadn't really had anything that I could engage with the property on. So this has been really fun. This franchise, I've really loved everything they put out so far.
Now, I'm asking you guys a little bit if there's somebody you're excited to see in the upcoming films or projects, or if somebody you're excited to see come back. You know, Kevo, I know you're at a bit of a disadvantage on this because you're not quite as familiar with the realm of characters, and this could not be more incorrect. But I would love to see Chaotix, who are basically the Pater Auster gang of the Sonic universe, with Vector the Crocodile, Espio the Chameleon, and Charmy Bee show up in something that they were not in. Knuckles was a bit of a bummer. But I think one of the things about a universe as big or Cream the Rabbit and Cheese would also be fun. You know, you're talking about such a big universe where there are so many characters. Kevo, it's not weird that, hey, it's awesome graphic. Kevo, it's not weird that you don't know a lot of these characters, especially when we get to a sales graphic in a little bit that really puts light on where the attention on this franchise really shines. I believe if he were here, our JoJo would say, Big the Cat! That was also a JoJo impression, so it was terrible. You guys.
It was moderate.
He also likes Amy.
Yes, he does. So what about you guys? Kevo, is there somebody you're excited to see return? TK, is there somebody you're excited to see show up?
Kevo, go first.
I am mostly excited seeing this ensemble of characters. The idea of how many there are still to see. They have done a really decent job so far of staggering building the world. We've only met 3 of these people, really. One kind of, and one has been hinted. But everyone else on this chart is completely hasn't even been referenced as far as I can tell as a novice. So the fact that there is still so much ground when I've loved everything they've done so far tells me that we could continue to enjoy this franchise as it is for a long time.
Now, TK, I believe, whereas Kevo is like, I want to see everybody. I believe you have one person here, and what's really funny is if you misspell her name, you get an X-Man, who I believe most people discover this character by misspelling the X-Man.
Exactly. Biggest hoe in the Sonic universe. Please welcome to the stage, Rouge the Bat, responsible for one of my favorite memes of all time. If you are keen to see it, Google, were you just frying chicken in there? It is that voice actor is just so good, and it is a completely out of nowhere stupid meme, but it's really funny. And the woman who just, because I believe it's originally just the picture and the words written down, and then this woman found it and acted it out. But to me, she is forever, because I found it around the same time the Sonic movies started coming out. I don't know when it was produced, but when this meme was vocalized, but I found it when I saw the Sonic movies were coming out, and instantly I was just, this woman has to play Rouge the Bat. That is forever the voice to me. I think it's so funny. It's completely indecent. None of this is happening in the film, but I still think this voice actor would just be phenomenal. Rouge is a bat, and she's in a heart-shaped bustier. She really is taking this franchise from 4 6-year-olds to 13 to 15-year-olds in a way that I'm here for. And I just think she's a great character. The lashes alone, very, very drag forward. I was not here, having not seen Knuckles and having distantly watched the films. I was not excited for the news that Keanu Reeves would be coming in as Shadow. I wasn't like, no, not Keanu, but I was like, that means nothing to me. Going through Knuckles, I am now very excited about it, because my least favorite voice actor of the bunch is, in fact, unfortunately, Ben Schwartz. I think he's too good. I think he's too on the nose.
Yeah, I get that.
I think there's something so fun about the fact that Idris Elba is essentially voicing a 14-year-old boy who is a warrior. And it's so good. And by contrast, I think Keanu Reeves could be a lot of fun as Shadow. So I am super looking forward to the fact that we know that's coming. We know we have the voice actor, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. But I think you were totally right. Chaotix, once we get into, because I'm hoping it's Shadow, and then I really do hope it's Rouge. I know it'll probably be Amy, but I hope it's one of the ladies. And then I think if we're still chugging along as a franchise, that's where we get into the really kind of wild and silly
Rouge
stuff
and the blaze of it all.
Yeah.
If I can just say, though, I love your point of Rouge is so drag forward, because I was thinking to myself, I don't know how Sonic isn't like every drag queen. Red sneakers, gold rings, blue hair, shiny things. Go fast, go fast, go fast. Like,
I mean, queens can do an amazing Sonic, but Sonic is not draggy.
I think queens should do a draggy Sonic.
I agree. I mean,
Justice,
I think
well,
because she wears blue so well and so predominantly, and it's his shade of blue, Saphira Crystal should obviously do it.
And like, that's not like queens should do this. That's like, if queens did this, it would be so good.
Really good.
It would so fun.
I mean, I think a whole series of Sonic looks would be really good. You know, a Tails look would be fantastic. But again, the girl who is going to have the easiest time and is just going to walk on stage as like ready to go is the girl who ends up doing Rouge the Bat.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I think okay, great time to get into the fucking movies. Okay, I want to say number one, Jim Carrey is a unique kind of sexy in this movie, because he's so hot in it, but he's so stupid. And the way he's funny is charming. I don't want to say that, well, this is from the second movie, so you're coming for me right now.
The first one I saw.
Well, even the silly mustache, he looks very handsome. You're not wrong. I was actually very surprised by that, because he has looked a little haggard.
Yeah.
Even before 2020, when they were making, like, he is looking a little worn. But I know him, yes. With the very with the really well coiffed hair, with the Magneto outfit. And that style of mustache, not my fave, but he's pulling it off.
The jokes, man, the laughter, the weird delivery of every line, the joy in every twisted moment of dialogue. It is like, it's Gene Kelly dancing, man. It is. And it's also so good.
It is the Jim Carrey we fell in love with in the 90s. Yeah. And even though I love love is a strong word. Even though I see nothing wrong with and understand why everybody else loves Eternal Sunshine, from Eternal Sunshine onward is a bit depressing with Mr. Carey. Is a bit heavy. There are not a ton of laughs. And we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to who Sonic is for and what the audience gets out of this entire universe and franchise. But I will say, if you are our age, and whether you have children or not, and you go to this film, seeing this person playing a much more adult version of himself as we recognize him from our childhoods is one of the things that really is for the adults in the theater and in the seats. It's great for kids because he makes a great villain. He makes a really fun, like, threatening but never going to be scary. Like, you bring your 6-year-old to this movie, they're fine. But if you're an adult, you know, that's Ace Ventura doing his thing.
Oh, great. Thank you. Neil McDonough, never a bad
I know, right? I forgot he was in this.
Keeping it insanely tight.
Insanely. But you actually made a perfect comparison by talking about the quality of age. I mean this really positively, but like anybody who ever saw Dreamgirls, Eddie Murphy did the tragic version of this perfectly.
Yeah.
This is that thing when you would go see a play and they would be casting just to use her, because we actually saw her in a role like this, Stockard Channing as the Sunset Queen of the stage.
Yes, it's only a play.
It's only a play. Thank you. He really could have been treated like a joke in this. They could have really demoted him, and instead they sort of enjoyed his resplendence. Also, the weird sexual tension between these two is Jonathan and Jack on 30 Rock.
Yes,
good.
It is exactly Jonathan and Jack.
Which I just realized for the first time, Jack and John are often the same name.
Well, and Isabella Rossellini calls him John. Calls Jack Donaghy.
Yeah,
John.
she calls him Johnny. That's right.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm surprised they never did a joke where his name actually isn't Jonathan. That's something that they would do.
I only asked if I could be called Jonathan so that you would like me, sir. Okay. Doopy tum.
But it's funny because I was just watching Batman Forever because it has the best soundtrack of any of the Batman movies, most of the movies in the 90s. And these are very similar performances, almost 3 decades apart, in which he commits so fully to the line between it's gotta be wacky fun, because it's just a wacky fun movie. We're spending wacky fun money. We're not yet doing The Dark Knight Rises, so it's got to be camp, but it also still has to be a villain, and it still has to be a performance that follows a hero versus villain plot. And he didn't really do a ton of that between those. Cable Guy is not that. Me, Myself, and Irene is not that.
Isn't he one of the Kick-Ass guys?
He's in Kick-Ass, but that's actually that proves my point.
Because it's a postmodernist and it's such an outlier.
Even though they like the kids saying fuck a lot and making dirty jokes, it's very serious business. Like, it's it's not, there's not supposed to be hijinks. It's not supposed to be wacky.
It's Mark Miller. It doesn't know how to be anything but too serious.
Right, exactly. And so these are really these two anchoring roles that I'm thinking about for him: Batman Forever on one end and this on the other. And while we can all agree Batman Forever is not a great movie for a lot of reasons, if you look at the comparison of Jim Carrey's performance to even Tommy Lee Jones's performance in that same movie, Tommy Lee Jones is also fully committing, but it's not working.
And
I love him so much for committing.
Yes,
it's not correct.
It's trying.
Yes, it's that he got the wrong notes.
100% he got the wrong notes. He got the wrong direction. Notes. It's not his fault. He showed up and put on the makeup and did the scenes full volume. He did not try and take it too seriously. And it's funny because Jim Carrey always tells stories about how Tommy Lee Jones was like, I don't like you because you play it so wacky. And then, you know, I think ultimately he's really aping Jim Carrey in that movie.
Trying to match him. Yeah.
Right.
And that's even part of where I want to bring this conversation to, if we can.
Yeah.
I think the balance of James Marsden and Tika Sumpter as Tom and Maddie making Jim Carrey so humanized. It's one of those things that, like, people don't ever understand why Ray on Everybody Loves Raymond work. And it's just, this example's coming to mind because I made the Brad Garrett joke earlier, because I've often thought that they look like they could be cousins. But the reason Ray worked on Everybody Loves Raymond is because he was surrounded by so many magical fairy creatures. He was instantly fascinating because he had if you think she's a shrew wife, fine, she's a shrew wife, but we remember her. We remember his mother. We remember his father. He was surrounded by so many fascinating characters that even though his main line of dialogue was, he had nothing likable. Cast vehicle be so successful without your leads being that sort of significantly likable, evidenced. These two go out of their way to be likable, balanced, counteract that idea of the humans don't need to be special, because for all intents and purposes, Jim Carrey is an animated character in this. They are so unbelievably human in their evolving relationship with Sonic, coming into being his parents, falling in love with him in the way they do. This is, as a former educator, this really exemplifies the kind of parenthood that develops someone special like Sonic into an incredibly special adult. And there are underlying elements here of this is what good parenting is, that I think is even, when you're saying who is this for, it's at least subconsciously meant to help kids see what a good parent can be.
I think you're right about that. And I think it does get into a question about, you know, is it there for kids to watch with parents and for everybody to have a group experience? Or I think one of the things I'm like really kind of getting at is, I don't know if I were the Kevin Feige of the Sega world, I don't know that I would have accepted the treatment for this film.
I get that.
You know, when you look at Sonic lore, they're on a version of Earth that is like nothing but islands, and that's why, you know, and zones. It is not our world, and they don't really come to our world except for specific Sonic games, and even then it's not, it could be not our world. Like in the Sonic games where you're skating down San Francisco streets and everything, it doesn't have to be our San Francisco. I love the characters and I love the intention, but like we're missing this. The fact that this is the world that he comes from and not the world that he goes into is, to me, the big thing that I think I would have asked them to shift some stuff around and not bring him into our worlds.
I really agree with everything you're saying, and I would have been so wary of the pitch. I feel like everything came out so amazingly and we're enjoying it so much, but it really was such a risk. And yet, even at the same time, I am watching this franchise and these first two films and this miniseries and going, okay, but this is out there. Are Maddie and Tom ever gonna like be brought into this world? Like,
and what's gonna happen to them?
This is out there, like how is that going to ever interplay? You know, that's why I said at the beginning, it's really cool that none of this stuff has ever been referenced. All of this is still wide open, but that means it's almost too bountiful in some ways.
I think I just would have really loved to have seen them because the world that Sonic is in the games has humans and it has cities and it has And I think I would have preferred to see James Marsden's character be one of those humans and not a human from Montana or Washington State?
Because I kept going Missoula, Montana the entire film.
Yeah. That they're in Green Hills and not, it's no longer the Green Hills zone. Sonic is so predicated on these levels. I mean, we are listening to, God bless you, Nico Action, the incredible musician, putting together so much Sonic music, pulling the scores from so many of these games, and doing your spin on them, which is fantastic, and I'm sure you're going to put up on your SoundCloud. But these are iconic. The mix of these sounds and the environments, that to me, like New York City being the fifth lady at the table on Sex and the City, the other character in the Sonic games is these environments that they created, in the same way that, of course, the first thing that happened when Mario the movie starts is they take them to the Mushroom Kingdom, because that's where Mario is. The Green Hills Zone is not Green Hills, Montana, and I think I sort of would have needed that if I were in charge. Now, I don't think this is therefore completely a fail, but I sort of wonder how things would be if the great human characters that we get were humans from that world and not from our world.
Well, and if I can build on that, I hear what you're saying, and I'd never thought of it as if the identity of the Sonic world is the place they've de-escalated from. We've then taken the magic from escalation. You escalate to fighting Koopa in Mario. You escalate to fighting Sephiroth in Advent Children. You kind of de-escalate from the Sega world into the human world at the start of this film franchise. And in that regard, I can see how there's a bittersweet to it. I think my concern is a little bit more with there are works that are like Tolkien-esque, where people are like, oh, but read the comics, it's so different, or watch the animated series, it's so good. Oh, don't forget to read the novels, because it's the expanded universe books of Star Wars, it's the comics of Sonic, but it's the TV shows. Cut it. Sonic is one of those properties where there are so many conflicting canons as to what people feel really spectacular and special about. I think this memorable and likable iteration buys them the time to get their ideas together for a franchise that sometimes even struggles to put it together in their video game content in the same way.
I hear what you're saying. I feel like, pre-production, which lasts years on these things, was enough time to come up with it. But I get what you're saying, and you strike while the iron is hot, you get things moving. And they can go back to the world he came from, and he can finally do a loop-de-loop. 2 movies, and we haven't gotten a single one except for that first one. I think that's insane, but whatever.
And I'm surprised they haven't done more city like a level. I love there's a moment in Knuckles, when we get to it in a little bit, where that it actually looks like Casino Night Zone, and my heart lit up. And I was like, oh, and then but there's so few of those, because one of the things is there's not a lot of that classic Sonic level that's just a baseball diamond, as much as I love these baseball diamond scenes. The only thing that I would say about the second movie that gives it an edge on the first movie is I like Sonic 1. I love Sonic and Sonic 1. I do. But one of the biggest bummers is, even when they gave us the opportunity to go back in and make the games cooler, and we're going to talk about that too, how if you bought Sonic and Knuckles, this special cartridge, you got a game, but if you plugged the earlier games into that cartridge, it put Knuckles in those games. games. So if you put the Sonic 2 cartridge into the Sonic and Knuckles Super cartridge, it put Knuckles in Sonic 2. And if you did the same thing for Sonic, it only gave you access to my favorite minigame in the history of minigames ever, Blue Sphere. I've lost more hours of my life to Blue Sphere than any video game, except maybe Triple Triad. I think Triple Triad, I literally lost about 2 years of my life in college. But I long for, and how much I love Sonic 1, I long for Knuckles and Tails and Shadow, and well, maybe Shadow's it because of the gun, but you know, or Metal Sonic, even. I love Silver. You know, oh man, never has a character given such Chucky Finster voice vibes as Tails. Tails really has that, gee, I don't know, Sonic kind of vibe to him, but done so lovingly in these films. I want to just take a minute to talk about those characters. The supporting characters of these films, like Tails, so amazing. But because we're going to talk about Wade, so I don't want to spend too much time on Wade. I actually think Maddie's family really are such scene stealers that they had to write in the abdominal muscles of Shamar Moore into the second film to just give that character a little bit more room. I don't know. I just think
it's a weird story, though. That whole story was weird. Like, and I loved his character in the end. But strange thing to do.
It was written with a little bit of yeah, you a faggot Stilinski kind of male mentality in mind. A little weird. I genuinely think giving these characters more time, though, in the second movie was a great move. If you have fan favorite Black characters who organically step into leading roles in a movie with white principles, that means you have found that thing that people are always saying, which is constantly audiences say, oh, well, then make a Black character people find compelling, and you just don't make Superman Black out of nowhere. Okay, well, then that's exactly what they did. These characters were so compelling, interesting, and funny that audiences responded so positively. There was no choice but to elevate these characters to more focused roles. I think that's terrific. And that, you know, one of the things that makes me cry the most about Sonic 1 is Sonic has these incredible superpowers. And then they create a clearly financially successful Black family. And the young girl of this family gives her sneakers to this boy she can see is so special, but she gives them because he doesn't have, and she clearly does. The idea of escalating the identity of the Black family to where they do get to live in this beautiful home and live comfortably, and then they find a way to continue to escalate this story. I just think this was really, really well done. This did not play into any ugly tropes that this would have done so in the 90s.
And let's be 100% clear here. This is a single mother living in San Francisco. This woman makes a 7-figure plus salary, probably 8 figures. Realistically, that couch, that home, that's 8 figures.
Hey, no, and then the wedding.
I was gonna say she downgraded with Shamar Moore. I don't care how hot he is. She
needs
took
to
a
be
pay
looking
cut
out for herself a little bit more. She needs to not find herself in situations like this, because she clearly does make bank. She should have a panic room.
Yeah. This is a Google C-suite woman. Well,
then she's in trouble right now.
Well, true, very true. She's an angel investor somewhere. Never mind. And to your point, like those people, the people who say like don't make Superman Black, make original characters, those people will then go and complain like, well, why there had to just be this random Black woman in the movie? So you're never gonna please those people. But this is the type of stuff for me that it actually feels more organic than just seeing everybody be white, which is just having characters that don't particularly hew to a very specific stereotype that we see repeated constantly, And again, and don't force the opposite. Like, I just pointed out something that the movie does not stress, which is there's no way this woman isn't insanely rich. So the movie doesn't go out of its way to be like, but don't worry, all black people are magically the most successful people in the world. It is just actors doing the roles. This is a woman. She has a sister, so the sister is probably going to be black too. They live in San Francisco because Sonic needs to do downhill stuff. And by virtue of that, that means this woman has to be rich, but we don't need to, we don't need to belabor that point or making something that it's not. And that's kind of, I think kids' movies are a great place to do stuff like that because it introduces just kind of even-keeled normalcy across demographics. And I will say that whether or not I feel like these movies are for me, I do feel like that's a thing that I find soothing about watching them.
So, I think as somebody who has paternal feelings for people that are like, I don't ever want to be a biological father. I don't believe that's my lot in life. But getting to help people grow into the adult they're going to be, that's like the coolest thing ever. And that these two people get to do that for 3 amazing kids. And I'm going to use this kind of as an opportunity to transition to Knuckles because we can always come back. This is our show. We're in charge. But one of the things that I didn't love was at the end of the second movie, in this scene, Maddie makes a comment of, I love all 3 of them, but especially the angry one, or especially the red one. And I was like, ew, why do you like poor Tails? Because obviously Sonic is Tom's favorite. So then Knuckles is Maddie's favorite. So then what? Tails is Sonic's favorite? How is that fair?
Hi, welcome to the middle child.
I was the baby. I was everybody's favorite.
So the baby.
I mean, I was the baby and I'm no one's favorite, so I don't. What are we doing here? As
the Sonic, my protagonism allows me to move us through this part of the story because it's awkward. And and I think that giving this it's this weird character type that they're giving him. It's this, I'm a young man. I am actually a boy, but I kind of can't control how strong I am. And I grew up in this other world, so I'm a little tougher than everybody around me. And it's kind of the only way you can still do Mowgli readjusting to the world without it being super problematic, because he's an echidna. He's not an actual person.
There's also a thing, and this movie delves deep into Jewish family life, and Jewish boys are considered men at age 13. And while that culturally that has changed, we're not let into the world as though we're adults at 13. But there is this idea that if you are raised very Jewish, if you're raised culturally Jewish, if you are raised in a Jewish community, if you are raised with a lot of Jewish people, you will have inherited quite a lot of tradition and lore and understanding and education on top of whatever other school education you might receive by the time you are 13. And so Knuckles comes from, again, a very traditional culture in which these young men are raised as warriors from a young age and are enmeshed in their culture and their tradition and in their lore. And so this was great. And so by the time they are, probably 13 or 14, they're probably, for their culture, men, and they have been taught to be warriors. They've been training since birth for 13 years. They've hit that, you got to do 10 years of training to be an expert in something already at age 13. So he is an authority to Wade in being a warrior, even though he is 13 and still a child in a lot of ways. And so it's very interesting that who they pair him with and against, and what they sort of pit him with is Jewish culture. Because the Jewish culture is not a very saying that right now is Jewish American culture today traditionally is not seen as particularly warlike, and yet there is these two people coming together in this understanding that the traditions that raised them made them the men that they are.
And, you know, your read on that is so important to the discussion because the showrunners have discussed that none of the Judaism and discussions of faith were part of the original outline for the show. It was as they were talking with Adam Pally about the show and designing Wade's arc and Wade's journey and what he would like to see happen that they said, how do you feel about us delving into this and exploring this with the character? And it was really because their lead is a Jewish man who wanted to explore Judaism as part of the character arc that the creators went for it. So to hear that they did a good job is, or at least, you know, culturally interpreted the job well, is great, because the other thing they did really, really right was this musical number. And I
do want to balance it out and say that I was a little bummed because Stockard Channing is not Jewish, and not every character needs to be the heritage or religion that they are portraying in film. You know, I love when Patti LuPone plays the rabbi on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, so it's not... But Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is a great example.
But she also played Evita, and that's, you know...
But Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is a great example because there are so many famous Jewish women playing Jewish women, including Rachel Bloom herself. And, you know, they do the Jap rap battle with another woman who is Jewish. Her mother is a well-known Jewish actor. And so by the time you get to
Patti LuPone's song is almost, you know, comedic and satirical. It's not, she doesn't get the same speech that Stockard Channing got about the history of our people. And we love Stockard Channing giving speeches. She gets a pass from me. You know, there are some people where I'm like, you should have said no to that role. You should have known that that was not your role to take.
But this is Abby Bartlett.
I was going to say,
I'll take as much Stockard as I can get at 80.
Exactly. Yep. She clearly loved and respected the material. She did not show up to collect a paycheck and leave. So I'm not going hard on this one, but I do want to point out that it is still a thing that happens. I'm shocked in this day and age how much Jewish culture is still a complete mystery to people. How many people don't know another Jewish person? In the current time that we're living in, it's wild that people don't understand the difference between Israelis and Jews, Zionists and American Jews, all of these things. So sometimes I'm just like, I would love to see these things sort of tackled correctly where possible. This was not 100% correct, but in the grand scheme of things, it was really great. I love Stockard Channing so much. I don't want to harp on this. I just want to get it out there. But Adam Pally is Jewish. It's a very big part of who he is. The point of this is really between his character and Knuckles more than anything else. And as you pointed out, like, this grew organically out of building that. And I love that. So I am positive on it.
And I think the thing that this show did also really well was the absurdity of so many of the ideas. I'm so sorry. I keep going to call him Kid Cudi, and now he wants to go by his full name, Child Kadinsky. But he was...
You're a bad person.
He was so fucking fun in this. I'm actually like, I really root for Kid Cudi as an actor. I think he has exquisite timing for a guy who I did not think would be good at acting, and then is funny in everything I see him in. I think, and I unfortunately cannot think of the character's name.
He's credited as Kid Cudi, just FYI.
He's actually also credited some places as his proper name in
which is
parentheses.
Scott Mescudi.
Scott Mescudi, thank you so much, because I'm saying how great he is, so I certainly don't mean any disrespect.
Yeah.
Ellie Taylor. I felt like Ellie Taylor gave a terrific performance of a character that I hated, and not like love to hate. Hated, flat, boring character. No thought put into that. It really bothered me. I thought the Pistol Pete stuff was cute, but guys, there's a lot of other famous basketball players who have names you can borrow. I I'm just gonna say it. I don't know how, but no matter the project, if Paul Scheer is in it, I think he is the absolute funniest part of the thing. I don't know how he does it every time, but I find Paul Scheer to be like the funniest person. I don't know why.
Well,
I'm June Diane Ralphio.
That is certainly your
Ralphio.
Raphael, no, gotta go.
You're allowed.
I thought that was such a bizarre, deep cut pop culture reference, though. ESPN The Ocho.
Yes.
I didn't think to look and see if any of the creators are connected with Dodgeball, but it's not like they have to be. It's just that was very funny to see.
I think it's also necessary to point out one, Carrie Elwes, way to bring it back from oh God, what's his name? James Spadering. You things were looking rough for a while, my friend, but you pulled it together. I believe
Please send your agent's number to Seth MacFarlane before it's too late.
I believe there is no scientific or legal way that this man and Stockard Channing could have produced children, particularly not the ages that the children are.
Or visual appearance.
Well, there's certainly that too. But we live in the world that we live in, and the one thing is, well, two things. One, I am bummed because they're both kind of sexy, tardy actors who are older now, and I thought they have no chemistry because they are 20 years apart, and even though Stockard Channing is famous for playing characters 20 years younger than she is, it just they just didn't have any chemistry, and I kind of thought it would be really funny if part of the joke was that, like, despite being such a scumbag, they have such great chemistry, but she still hates him. But it was just kind of, they barely speak. She's very antagonistic towards him, as she should be. On that note, I will say I thought one of the most important parts of the show, besides the Jewish stuff, was the speech that she gives to Adam Pally, which I missed the first time I watched the show, and it like redeemed a bunch of it for me. The speech that she gives him in episode 5 in the hotel hallway, where she is like, I never wanted to badmouth your father. Our lives were hard, but we made it work. And I thought, maybe he's not such a bad guy. Maybe this is how it's supposed to be. He is such a bad guy. This is not how it's supposed to be. Because that's such a waffly, any kid show doesn't really know how to handle that. No kid show ever wants to say, any parent is derelict of duty lest they ever be held to that standard. But we know what right and wrong is. And we know that there's a kind of dad who, this is like my dad, where like, he's not a bad person. He didn't abuse me, but he was not a good father. And he shouldn't be called one. And somebody should point out that he wasn't one to people who don't know. And I thought it was really brave of them for her to give this speech, and for Adam Pally to push back and show that he hasn't figured it out yet, but for her to not give the whole like, well, you know what's best, but really to say like, oh, you're going to do what you're going to do, but this is a bad person.
The other, Kevin, by all means.
No, just I agree. It's tough. I had a mom, not to bum everyone out, but who never really got to make that speech. And, for her own sake, it's really cool to see, not just from the parental standpoint, like parent to child, but to see her as for herself be able to stand up and take that stand and show that kind of honesty. And I think especially in a show and a franchise that they've made so much about family and what family is and being together and the choices you make, it's important to point out that some people can act unforgivably unless they do something to atone and show and earn forgiveness.
I mean, I I'm really lucky. My dad is a Tom, not so much the good son situation. No freaky try to poison anybody moments. But so I didn't as much have the emotional connection with the oh god, my dad's a bastard. I had the emotional connection with am I a bastard because of who my family is, not because I think my family are bastards, but there's things that like you don't like everything your parents do. And when you pick up some of your parents' less cute traits that you don't love, and then you see them on yourself, ew. And Wade almost became his father at the end of episode 5. And I'm turning to Kevin and I'm like, if Wade really sold out Knuckles, I don't care if he runs up the stairs faster than Knuckles. I will be just really done. I will be done. I will really think they missed the point of this character arc. And then it's because the entire time Knuckles was listening in on my cell phone. Okay.
I needed it to be a twist. I agree.
I knew it was going to be.
I hoped it's really maybe my one major complaint that I said about the show was that I felt the way that episode 5 ended into 6, I would have probably done it differently. I maybe would have had the reveal, like the twist of, that's right, we tricked you at the end of 5 and then cut that there because I wanted, I like keeping the vibe up and I feel like that's a very stressful note to have ended episode 5 on.
Well, two things. They you just watched the next episode, so thankfully there's no week of waiting. But I also think that goes into the insane pacing of bouncing back and forth between these evil actual villains with technology and powers and like a giant mech and a bowling game. I probably would have sorted all of the villains and powers and everything out completely and then done the bowling stuff. Frankly, there was quite a lot of bowling stuff, the stakes of which really felt limited once you get into the mech and stuff. And the fact that even that, like, Carrie Elwes becomes a part of that storyline. He's not just the dad that you have to beat at bowling because he's a dick. He actually, sells them out because he's a horrible person. And so I sort of thought at that point, like, the bowling game doesn't really matter anymore. And also, if we're talking about a grown adult man who fights with, superhero hedgehogs and echidnas, the bowling game definitely doesn't matter. Like, we're on to new stuff with who this man needs to be. So the fact that we do all of this, we jump back and forth to the bowling game a few times as we get into high-level superhero fights, and then we end on he wins the bowling match when he's already shown that he's so much more than that and he's capable of so much more than that. Weird choice to go in that direction.
And like you would think it might end on one of those notes where he doesn't win and he's like, but I have the real victory because of family.
Well, a real victory, I stopped a giant mech that was going to kill my friends. Like, I am a warrior. It doesn't matter. I actually never really thought about that idea because I was just so bewildered by what was happening. But I actually love that pitch. Like, I think it would have redeemed this weird switch to an inconsequential thing if he had in fact had lost and been like, right, but that doesn't matter at all because this is inconsequential both to our show and to my life.
You have
right.
On the whole, I think the big thing that I'm walking away from this with is I maybe think this cements Wade in the future of the Sonic franchise in a way that fills out the universe a little bit more. And look, I don't think they're going to kill anybody in Sonic 3. Even if it turns out you can put Sonic 3 inside your copy of Sonic 2 and it changes the film so that Keanu Reeves does the dialogue for the entire movie. Even if this is a Sonic and Knuckles situation, I don't think that Knuckles is going to hold Wade's dying body in his arms and go, no! But the fact that you knew nothing was going to happen to Tom or Maddie really, or our precious puppy. Like, there are certain things that are not going to happen, but putting Wade in the mix maybe means Wade could be in danger. Again, they're not going to cut off parts of him or anything, but
it escalates the scales for this character.
I think his presence could be felt.
Yeah, it
Right.
escalates the stakes for the character. I agree. Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap up this talk on Nux with general. For me, I give the Sonic movies a B+, and I give Knuckles. The more I think about it, I like some stuff way more. I like some stuff a little less. I think Knuckles is going to get an overall B from me. But yeah, Jim Carrey gets an A. Not just because he's super handsome in these roles, but because he unleashed the whole idea behind Sega was, what more can we do that Nintendo hasn't done? What can we do that video games aren't doing back then? That it was more bits on the system and they were challenging ideas. And he kind of said, what can I do that I haven't seen in a video game movie before? I've seen Michelle Rodriguez eat a zombie. What can I do that isn't that? And he gave it, and it was really cool and really funny. And I really sometimes think his every delivery is, he said, what can I do that makes it sound like I'm responding to the wrong line? And I give him an A just for being one of the best movie villains I can think of in the last 20 years. I mean, honestly, I think he gave a Johnny Depp performance. As Jack Sparrow, I mean.
Yeah.
I've never seen one of those movies, so I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've never felt the inclination. They're all B minuses for me. The Sonic movies are B minuses they are a very standard quality, like all throughout. Everything about them is a B minus in a good way. Nothing amazing, but nothing terrible. Knuckles is a B minus in that some stuff is a total A, maybe even A+, really fantastic. The fusion of Idris Elba's voice with Knuckles' face and mouth and body.
The texturing on that glove.
There are sometimes when he says stuff and I'm just so charmed and amused, but it's literally looking at his stupid little echidna mouth and Idris Elba's voice coming out of it. It's so fun and cute and adorable, and I'm just like, A. There is other stuff that for me is C-, D level, just kind of a fail. Not what I would have done. I'm not going to recount all of it, but like a really great example is that pacing of fights to the bowling game. That complete D for me. Wrong way to go about it. Didn't work. And honestly, like, Kevo just gave a 2-sentence solution that would have brought that up to a B for me, which is essentially like the game just doesn't matter. There you go.
Or
that solves.
Or it should have been the bowling balls and the bowling machines. The bowling alley becomes the mecca.
Yeah, there's a bunch of ways to do it, but like that way is a big production. And I'm saying, like, sitting in a writer's room, literally somebody just could have writ the line, "This doesn't matter," and then we've fixed we've taken a problem that I think is a D problem to a B. It's totally good. So I'm just saying, like, I wonder a little bit about development and rushing with all of this, but B- all around. They're really lovely. They're really fun. And I know we're looking forward to Keanu. So that's going to be great.
Keva, where do you sit with what are some of the funnest kids movies of the last 10 years for me?
Yeah, pretty high marks. It's unfortunate, but I feel like one of the things we've been talking about that we draw comparisons to this movie between, you can't really help, is the Super Mario Brothers movie, which we all really loved. And I feel like the higher marks for Super Mario Brothers has sort of worn off over time a little bit, mostly because I think those are a little more simplistic in a lot of ways, which is great. These movies, I feel, just offer a little bit more, and while still being completely available and accessible for younger audiences. And I think that's really great. And I love that we are seeing, therefore, a diversity of style in these video game adaptations for young audiences. And I'm hopeful for whatever we might get in the future. It's December is when the movie is, right?
Yes, I just looked it up.
Yeah, so exciting.
I am maybe, oh God, I hate to be the comic book kid for 2 seconds, but I do remember in the original solicit, one of the things that the editor said in the letters page was that Knuckles was going to lead into Sonic 3. And I am telling you right now, unless Sonic 3 is the mighty Boosh versus some mushrooms, I'm not exactly sure how this led into Sonic 3.
I do have to agree.
Yeah, not at all.
I did love the loop trick. That was really great. I loved the comic accurate lore. That was really cool. Because there's, as we're about to get into, there are so many game timelines. Fuck yourself if you're trying to keep track. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see Shadow. I remember somebody said like Operation something. And I was like, it's Operation Shadow. And I'm like, freaked out.
You did. I remember. God bless.
I'm really excited. I actually had like lost touch with the Sonic franchise for a really long time, and I had a boyfriend that was like a big gamer, and we were at a Six Flags, and there was a crane machine, and he was like, "Win me that Shadow the Hedgehog," and I was like, "That off-color Sonic?" And he was like, you mean Shadow the Hedgehog?" And I was like, no, I don't think so. I think you're wrong. I think he's the armadillo guy. Hold on, wait, who's the armadillo? I'm trying to find it real fast. Oh my gosh, Mighty the Armadillo, who is basically Red Sonic as well. Anyway, so let's get into those games. Let's just take a quick look at and I didn't pull that many, honestly. I left out all but one racing game. I left out all the fighting games. I left out all the and Mario games, which I want to just make a point really quick. I did some research about some sales figures, and one of my favorite things is documentaries because you learn, right? You live, you learn, you laugh, you learn, you love, you're uninvited. And one of the things that you discover pretty quickly is that the best-selling year of Star Trek's toy life is not even on the same axis by figure of 10 sales figures as the worst year of Star Wars. Like, there is no point that Star Trek even comes close. There are years of Star Wars that beat decades of Star Trek. And that is the relationship between Sonic and Mario. So much so that the Sonic and Mario team-up games are a large percentage of the Sonic solo games, whereas they are not even a reasonable figure on the Mario chart. So we are talking a little bit about a Star Wars Star Trek situation here. Where I'm a bigger Trekkie than I am a Star Wars fan any day, so I'm not coming from my precious Federation. But yeah, you cannot exactly count Sonic's midichlorians.
I just realized if we get if we lead up to a Avengers Endgame style Super Mario and Sonic movie crossover, it's going to be Andy and Jean-Ralphio crossing over.
That is,
wow.
I don't even know what to say, because it also is part of what made this movie work and kind of makes Mario work, is that they're capturing the same attitude that the things that people, the things that people who grew up on Sonic and Mario are now drawn to as well. The Parks and Rec of it. I did a project for work this week, and in it I named someone Ron Nope. And when the slide went up during the presentation, somebody literally went, I mean, and so utilizing that level of cast it's visionary in terms of understanding what makes parents happy, because at a certain point they were still I love her to this day. When I walk into a store, I really want someone to disrespect me so that I can be really shitty to them when I go back in the next day, just like Knuckles. I am a Julia Roberts man. But there did hit a point where she really wasn't like what we grew up with the same way a Ben Schwartz is. And the same way that Adam Devine is. You know what I mean? And I'm purposely only naming pretty ladies. So I think when you think about the fact that Sonic came out in 1991, we are talking about something that firmly is ensconced within the course of our lifetime. And it has like 15 continuities. In fact, Sonic 2 alone originally had 5 unique timelines before they streamlined it, which is why like one of the levels looks like antiquity. One of the levels is a post-futuristic neon universe. One of the levels is a green rolling emerald field. Originally, they were all in 5 different timelines, and it got simplified down, and they just made it 5 very different islands. But so we have Sonic 1 into Sonic 2, really the bread and butter of every dentist office throughout the 90s. Then Sega CD.
What does that mean?
So in my area in New Jersey, doctors' offices stopped having toys and started having like Sega cabinets. And
like
you have like a 5-minute limit.
Play
and you cycle between 6 games, and you would just get to play. And so when I would go to get my braces done, every time I would play Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on Sega in the lobby, waiting for my turn in the dentist chair. And like that was how they transitioned kids that were older to still coming to the doctors, to the pediatrician, because they weren't ready for an adult doctor yet. But you needed something to keep the 10-year-olds from literally chewing on the counter.
This is really why when I went to college in 2003, people asked me if Maine had running water.
I will admit there are times when I'm driving through Maine where I'm like, wow, this really is such beautiful wilderness. It is so untapped. I'm really glad I'm staying in Portland.
Yeah, well, even in Portland, I made it through 18 years of pediatric care of my teeth, eyes, all of it. Not a single video game in a single doctor's office. Just highlights.
Come to New Jersey.
Well, yeah. All right, keep going.
When you get to platforms like Sega CD and things like the 32X Mega Drive add-on.
Failures?
Thank you. We are talking about why Sega immediately went out of business. I mean, they stopped being able to be a game company. And so now they just produce games. Yeah. They no longer produce systems.
But to be fair, it wasn't immediate. I mean, we're gonna
they get a good decade.
Yeah. And they have one of the greatest video game systems of all time, which has some of the greatest Sonic games on it. So keep going.
And isn't the Dreamcast the original home of Soul Edge, which goes on to
become Soul Calibur?
Soul Calibur, one of the most successful fighting games of all time. Yeah. There is not a sassy faggot I have ever met that isn't a gamer that can't say their Soul Calibur character.
Yeah.
I myself am sort of a Killick Sungmina. I really like my ranged poking. Also, I like playing as Ivy. I love the whip. Anyway, there was a lot of buying time because Sonic became popular so quickly, and game cycle development is long. So you need things like Sonic Spinball and things like the Game Gear, which, can I just say, TK, I'm really glad you brought up the Game Gear because you're the one. And so it's sort of, people don't remember the Game Gear, guys. It just was not a successful system. And so it really didn't stand the test of conversational time. It's only even in some of the later and bonus editions Sonic reprint games, of which there are many, that a lot of the Game Gear games started populating in.
Game Gear also had a terrible selection of games.
And a horrible screen for how big it was. And you know what the Game Gear physically reminds me of? Actually, vice versa, the Steam Deck. Every time I see
Yeah.
the Steam Deck, I'm like, that's a Game Gear, baby.
I get you.
To speak positively, though, I want to say, I love. I swear to God, this is on topic. I love Lisa Marie Presley more than I love most nepo babies. It's tough to get me to say a bad word about Lisa Marie. She once said some things like during the period she was married to Michael Jackson, nothing went on in her very videotaped house that she did not know about. And these video games would have been designed during that time. So I feel very comfortable saying Michael Jackson's secret work contributing to the score of Sonic 3 and the other Sonic games is some of the most significant video game music in history. I love Mario music, but I love Mario music because I love the Baroque hoedown. I love Mario music because I love to go Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius. I love Sonic music because it's challenging, powerful, well thought, well structured, complicated music that really elevates my ear. And like, I come back to it and work. The only video games, and I'm not counting things like Final Fantasy, which are clearly, cinematic scored things, but like the only video game I can think of that's like a pop game, other than like a Katamari, which is like clearly meant to be like a pop game. Splatoon is maybe the only thing I can think of where the music is as central to the cool factor as Sonic. And so I just think the score to Sonic 3 is, one of the most important things ever. Hey, yes, Robbie, slay.
Robbie says slay. Yes, Robbie, correct, agreed.
And just to say one more time, if you bought Sonic and Knuckles, it was a top loader cartridge, which means it was a regular cartridge with like a big old bell end at the top for my British friends. And you could flip that bitch open and it had a cartridge slot, and then you could pop another cartridge into it. So it would be a double-decker cartridge. And if you put Sonic 3 in Sonic and Knuckles, it was actually the full game that Sonic 3 was always meant to be. But because of these game cycles being you must get it out quickly, right? The whole era of the classic era of Sonic is over in 3 years. They had to split the game into two things because they just didn't have time to complete what they wanted. So all of the Knuckles backstory got moved into Sonic and Knuckles, while Knuckles remains in Sonic 3. So then if you put Sonic and the Hedgehog 3 into Sonic and Knuckles, you got what had always been the plan to be the game for Sonic 3, but you had to spend $100 instead of $50. In order to make it a little bit more worth it, they made it that most versions, because again, there's multiple versions of each one of these games for different systems, the Master Drive system, the 16-bit, the Genesis, it's all different versions. If you had the right versions, you could plug your Sonic 2 into Sonic and Knuckles, and it was literally just Knuckles as Sonic in Sonic 2. It was just a sprite revision. But if you plugged in your Sonic 1, it gave you access to the previously only could be stage unlocked game Blue Sphere, which is one of my favorite mini games of all time. And just, Kevo, if you would just scroll us over a little bit, you guys can see some of the really cool screen images from these. I'm a title screen guy. If you want to know how to make me fall in love with you, show me the corner box tattoo on your shoulder and I will marry you. This is, I think, the video game version. If one of these is your phone background screen, well, that's less permanent. If one of these is your phone background screen, I will also marry you. It's just very cool to see this little bit of antiquated history that is so well loved. A number of the reprint games include them.
Nice. I love these.
Okay, Robbie. I never knew he and Knuckles were the same age.
Yeah.
I mean, it's barely younger than me, so I can't really be a bitch about it. But, I love that for you. And I just want to kind of buzz through a bunch of these other ones because this really is the point at which the market saturation falls off. This is the point at which people stop associating with the identity of the identity of the franchise. Really,
the cartoon show was such a big thing, and then once stuff like that fell off too, I think that was a huge part of it.
Absolutely. And there was some brand confusion having Jaleel White play two different versions of Sonic in two different unrelated continuities. The daytime continuity and the weekend continuity, produced in two different animated series, did not fit the same thing. They had different villains. It was very different. And at this point, you can actually really begin to see the chaotics of the release schedule, where you've got Knuckles Chaotix over on the 32X, dual versions of Sonic Blast over on the Game Gear, but Sonic 3D Blast over on the Genesis. From there, Tails gets his own game, which it only makes sense because you're already given one to Knuckles. I mean, I do think Knuckles is one of the most fascinating antagonist characters in this genre, but still. It's as early as 1999 with the Neo Geo Pocket, where you get to remaking earlier Sonic games. And at that point, we stopped seeing the focus on a Sega built hard drive. A few more games were designed, but didn't all come out. And you start to see a lot more focus on what can we get out? What platform is doing it? What works? Many people don't realize that Sonic Adventure is actually originally a Sega-owned title, was on the, I forget the name of the handheld, or it might have been the Dreamcast even. But they would eventually...
I believe it was the Dreamcast.
Thank you. They would eventually be re-released for the GameCube. And that is probably where most people know Sonic Adventure from. I love Sonic Advance. When I was a poor college student with a flash cart, I definitely played a lot of Sonic Advance on my R4. This was a good one. Big fan. And as we continue on, we get to the Dark Age. Oh God, this is there is 3 good games across this entire page, and that is by taking a bunch of each one. I mean, from famous mechanic hardware problems, games not working right, games not loading right, special abilities never working, the ability to clip through whole levels immediately at the beginning of the level, getting to the end of the game stage. There are Sonic Heroes, Robbie, is one of the strong games, even though there are still some technical issues. This era of Sonic is tough. Sonic Heroes, Sonic Rush, of course, Shadow the Hedgehog getting his own game is such a major turning point for the series. The less said about Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, the better. We're moving on. Sonic and the Secret Rings was my reentrance to the franchise. This was the point at which I caught up on everything Sonic related and played a decade worth of Sonic games on various platforms very quickly. Secret Rings is a messy RPG. It's not the place to start, but it was my first game back. That said, Secret Rings is 50% better than 2006. 2006 is the weird one with the human people. Rush Adventure is fine. Unleashed is crazy. This is weird. Sonic, I had actually never heard of this next one. I literally discovered it in doing the research for this game episode. It was nuts. Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood, a DS game I've just literally never heard of. Evidently, it had a canceled sequel. It does not get referenced in other canon. And so I'm really excited to go out and find out more about a Sonic game that I did not know anything about.
Fun.
Sonic and the Black Knight, not my game. Sonic Colors, I don't care how many problems it has. I love that game.
That is a great color palette.
Ultimate Colors even has a better color palette. Colors Ultimate, it's called. I think it's called Colors Ultimate. It's even better. I also like Sonic Riders. Yes, I believe it's on this list too. I think it's not one of the ones I left off. Okay, Sonic the Hedgehog 4 is one of those things that's like, I don't understand how they thought this was Sonic the Hedgehog 4. This was no more a Sonic the Hedgehog 4 than Sonic Mania is Sonic the Hedgehog 5. But it's fine. Generations, also a lot of fun. Just a little weird, a little continuity complicating. I'm not a big fan of the episodic release of Sonic the Hedgehog with multiple games released in between. I did not know that there was a 3DS partner for Lost World, but it turns out in 2013, Sonic the Lost World for Wii U, the first game that I did not play when it came out, because I did not have a Wii U, did have a 3DS partner game. Exciting. Rolling right along. Sonic Boom, a line that I purposely stayed away from. Again, I didn't have a Wii U, so I had no way to play these.
Right.
This one I did know about Shattered Crystal because I really did not like the art. The art on the boom line is not my thing. I would feel better if you quickly moved past the app I spent way too much time on. Please move quickly past.
Oh, yeah. I remember those games.
Keep going. Boom. I didn't even know there was a third Boom game, gotta be honest. Only knew about the first two. All right. This has been a really great sheet, this page. Sonic Mania is in my top 5 Sonic games. I think you're crazy if you don't have a good time with it. You can not like it, but it's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Forces is not for me.
I think it's for anybody.
Team Sonic Racing is the best Sonic racing game I can remember, but I'm not a big racing game guy. Okay. Again, I don't think there's any bad version of Sonic Colors. Ultimate looks so cool. Can't wait to pick it up. Didn't pick it up, but I will. I promise. I bought Frontiers and still haven't played it. So...
Is this a Switch game?
Papa's busy.
PC. Of course, Superstars came out last year to... reviews. Sonic Dream Team, also an app. And I'm just gonna say it. Look, Origins, I'll never forgive you. Origins, I will literally never forgive you. You were a bad game. Origins Plus, however, that they went in and fixed all of those game-breaking bugs. That's terrific. That's a great game. Check it out. And they threw in so much additional stuff to make it easier to play. So definitely look at that. I also see we have the amazing Cyborg in the auditorium, just as we are about to sign off. So it's super exciting that we got to say hi to you just as we round out. So TK, Kevo, it sounds like the two of you did not play as many Sonic games as me, because I'm pretty sure I've played 70% of this list.
Yeah, no, I have played 10, 20, played probably 20, like really owned and committed to 5 to 10.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you just listed 100 games, so that's still 5 to 10 games.
I listed like 36. No, 34. 34.
Felt like 100. Just
felt
kidding.
like maybe 50.
But yeah, I mean, I played a bunch of these, especially these early ones. Because I was trying to hang out with the kids that were edgy and were going to get cigarettes before me, so I would play their Genesis and their Game Gears. But yeah,
guys, I love Sonic and Angel Dust.
That's me at 16 with the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I don't know a single game. Actually, that's not true. I know Sonic Adventure, but I don't know any other games from this era.
I'd never heard of the R either. Sonic R. Never heard of that one either.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know a lot of them from this one either. I mean, like, it's amazing that there are this many and that they are so varied in, you know, setup and scope and where they take place and all that stuff. That there's no kind of consistent timeline that you have to get involved with. They've just really kind of done whatever they want to do. And I think that has probably led to a lot of flops, but I imagine it's led to a ton of really cool, interesting games that, like, you know, Nintendo with Mario has not, especially in later years, been willing to take so many big swings. They take really great safe swings.
Captain Toad, one of the greatest safe swings of all time.
Yeah, but you know,
but it's still safe swing.
Yeah, I imagine a lot of these games taught us all a lot about, including developers, about what we did and didn't want from this franchise in a way that lets them keep building cool stuff.
I love that. Kevo, did you also have an orthodontic Sega experience?
Yes, my orthodontist who was featured on the Daily Show one time.
Your orthodontist was Anthony Weiner?
No, he was featured in a segment about the 4th Harry Potter book, and the entire bit was just, I believe, Stephen Colbert or someone of that caliber was asking him a question, and his response was, I don't know. I'm just an orthodontist. And he showed it to every damn patient. I just wanted to go home, guys. I didn't want to watch this videotape. But yeah, no, if not this PlayStation, yeah, it was usually not Nintendo. For whatever reason, I never tried to get in there and play it, but you know, kids would usually be playing it. Yeah, like I said, Sonic has always been there. He hasn't exactly been Mario. He's maybe even been lower tier than B to Mario's A, but a constant presence. Nothing to really hate about the guy. And you know, it's so interesting to learn how many games there are. The fact that there is no continuity, and it explains maybe why they do feel there is so much freedom in the films. And that means they could pull in all of these weird characters. Who knows how?
Well, until they do, and I can't wait to see it. We have another broadcast coming your way tomorrow. We can't wait to bring it to you. Then we're bringing you some exciting new stuff. Like on Wednesday, we're going to be talking about the Dead Boy Detectives, another streaming show that dropped the same weekend as Nux. So keep your eyes peeled. But until we come back with some amazing new content, like Doctor Who's debut next weekend or Yellow Vision, Kevo, where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
You can find me over on the socials at Kevoreally. That's Kevoreally. Teak, where can the folks at home find you, sir?
You can find me at TK Elemental. Nico, where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me being obsessed with these two guys, loving getting to do this show. And we can't wait to bring you more tomorrow. It is always such a blast getting to make this show for you. So do us a favor, like, comment, and subscribe so we can keep making the show for you. We had so much fun reaching new audience members. We love the comments and we can't wait to keep talking with you. But if you guys do those 3 things for us, it'd be amazing if you guys did 3 things for yourselves. Number 1, do us a favor. You got to stay safe. Spooky, scary world out there. But we know that just like Sonic, you guys got the speed to go fast and stay safe. Number 2, while you're staying safe, just remember, be brave because you're amazing and we never want you to lose yourself in all the staying safe. But if you can be brave, if you can stay safe, then number 3, and this is the most amazing one, the most important one, we want to see you guys evolve daily because who you were yesterday, incredible. Who you are today, amazing. But who you are tomorrow is going to be the best yet. And we can't wait to see it when we do our broadcast tomorrow, like 6 p.m. EST. So until then, do that 6 and we'll see ya.